This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We've seen war. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
I want to make it clear that the views expressed by our hosts are not considered the official stance of MBR Views. Remember, this is all about having fun and enjoying the ride.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Tracer Round Podcast. A tracer round is a type of ammunition designed to help visually track the path of rounds fired. Tracers show where you need to adjust or redirect fire. Join Army veteran Sergeant First Class Terry Lynch for Tracer Rounds, the first ever podcast of its type. Whether it be military, music, sports, politics, education, relationships, or gender issues, no target is off limits or out of bounds. Are you on target? Does your fire need to be recalibrated? Whether you adjust fire or fire for effect, tune in to Tracer Rounds, where the range is always open and there are rounds going down range.
Hi, welcome back to Tracer Rounds. My name is Terry. I'm your host, and I have in studio with me today RJ Mack of RJ Rants. It's a new podcast that's going to be kicking off here on MBR, where we give veterans their voice. And so today we're going to give RJ his voice. So welcome to the studio, RJ.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me on here.
I'm so excited because I got to listen to some of your work that you did before you came to MBR. And so we want to talk about that. But first, we want to talk about your military service, kind of what you did, where you were stationed, what your favorite memories are, just anything about your service you want to share.
Okay. Well, like I said before, I joined the delayed entry program for the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old. I probably went to boot camp maybe 2 weeks after I turned 18. Went to boot camp in San Diego, MCRD. Graduated, went to the rest of the training, became a field wireman. After becoming a field wireman, I was lucky I got stationed in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, which was really
That's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah, it was a small base, so everybody knew everybody. So we had a lot of friendships connected through different units. So even when I went from a infantry unit to a support unit, CSSG. Back then it was called CSSG 3. I still knew a lot of people because we were all on the island together. Did some deployments to Okinawa, mostly Southeast Asia. And also I did my last 4 years. I did 8 years. I did my last 4 years in Camp Pendleton with 9th Communication Battalion. Great unit too. Met a lot of people.
So what was your job? What did you do? Because I'm not sure I understand your job specialty. I just want to learn a little bit more about it.
Oh, it was communications, 0612 field wireman. We ran the switchboards, we ran the phones, we even broke down into construction wireman, where you climb poles and lay the wire, you dig the wires. Wow. That's how you get your field telephones when you're out in the field. So we were in the communication.
That's a hard job.
Yeah, it was pretty challenging at times. It's just more manual work. Once you learn how to, it gets broken down into a lot of different MOSs once you get out there. Um, we served a lot of times in platoons with the radio communications and data platoons, so I got a little experience in that too, doing the radio side, especially radio, because radio usually is the larger side of the platoon.
Right. Well, that's interesting. I mean, I imagine your day was never the same because where you're setting up, what you're doing is never going to be just like cookie cutter. It's always going to be a little bit different. There's always going to be something, a nuance to it that isn't in, from one location to the next, right?
Correct. And we didn't really, most of my units were never really just set up and just stay location whenever we went out on deployments or to the field. It was always we'll stay for a little while and then you got to move. So it was always digging up stuff, especially when you were in the infantry unit. You move in the middle of the night, sometimes early dark dawn in the morning, no lights.
Wow. Yeah, I imagine it was one of those things where you're tripping over yourself at times when it's in the middle of the night and you're trying to get everything pulled up and ready to roll. So I imagine it was a little
Yeah.
bit of a challenge.
We got things done smoothly though. I was lucky to be a part of some really good units. So and we worked together really well. Even when we were in our, you're out in the field with each other. You're cool for a minute, then you're arguing sometimes. But even during those times, we seem to work together really well.
Right. So what's your favorite memory? What's your favorite assignment? What would you say is your takeaway from the military?
One of my favorite, I mean, your first 4 years, especially when you're young, it's usually the most funnest sometimes because you're young. You're still trying to get up to that point of NCO or NCO to the responsibility. So you still got a little leeway to mess up. So one of my favorite times was when I was with, it was called 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines in Hawaii. I was in the infantry unit and we went on deployment together to Okinawa, Korea, places like that. And that was when I was like 18 to about 21 years old. So those were great times, getting in trouble sometimes, even sometimes the times when you got punished by your by your NCOs and stuff, you look back on that and you laugh now. Like, man, I'm glad they only did that. It sucked during the time being up at 2 a.m. scrubbing floors on your knees, but it's better than with the alternative. Sometimes you glad that they did that.
So the Marines really shaped your early adult years. If you joined at 17, it really then kind of shaped how you see the world, or at least your worldview at that time, because you grew up with that structure and you grew into adulthood knowing this is the way the rank structure goes. This is who's in charge. This is I'm doing these things. It's very regimented and routine. Would you say that helped you now?
Oh, it most definitely helped me now. I've been I EAS'd in 2008, so I've been out of the Marine Corps for a long time. So I've had some I have civilian friends that I've made over the time from different, especially from school, going to school in different corporations, and they all are just shocked at how I can get up early in the morning and I still can get up and I can still work out. If my regiment isn't set, it's a very confusing day for me. I have to have a regiment set, and early I can still get up early. That's one of the best things that I took out of that. And also being organized is one of the best things because your day is set. From the time you go to boot camp to when you get to the fleet, your day is, what you're doing throughout the day.
Right. You have a battle rhythm. You just know, like, I've got these things planned out and this is the way it's going to happen. And you just make it happen regardless of whether you're tired or not. You just get it done because that's the mission and that's the job.
Yeah, you understand. You understand the time clock.
Yes. Yes, I do. I do. Sometimes I don't want to understand it, but yes, I do. I think all of us are wired a little bit that way because I know if you're part of this group with MBR, everybody's like still chatting late at night and early in the morning. Like it doesn't seem like it ever really slows down. It seems like it keeps going. So I think all of us that are military wired at some point in our lives kind of still connect into that and still like, okay, well, there's still mission. There's still people talking. There's still things to do. So we need to get up and get it done. So I think that's kind of ingrained in us at some point. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
It helped too with like things like work and school. Because I mean, I don't know what I would have been like because 17-year-old Rod was whew. I feel bad for my managers. They had to manage me and my teachers. So
Right.
I think it really helped shape me and be able to go into because I've been in the corporate world for since 2008. So and I've worked for a lot of different corporations, and I believe it's helped me, stay disciplined, be able to show up on work on time, be able to know when to walk away, when to do your job, things like that.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. Um, so I was gonna. How long did you say you were in the Marines? How
Hey,
long
you,
did you serve? 8 years. Okay.
thank you.
And so did you? What made you like stop at 8? Because you were almost to the halfway point.
Went through a lot through my last 4 years. That's why I said the first 4 years was really great. Then the last
Yeah.
4 years, you go through a lot. Different changes, especially once you become an NCO,
Yeah.
and you become a leader and you're in charge. And then I just kind of wanted to see the world differently.
Yeah.
Like I just kept asking the question, like, what is it like, to be out, be in the civilian world, be at home, see your
Right.
kid.
Yeah, well, because you really didn't have that opportunity because if you were there at the age of 17, I mean, you really didn't have any adult time in like the real world, as they say, or the civilian world. You didn't really have that opportunity. So, yeah, I can see that. That makes sense.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
became a father too. My
yeah.
son's, I remember my son when he was first born, my oldest son, he's 21 now. When he
Oh,
was
wow.
first born, probably I was blessed enough to see all of my children born. I have friends that
That's
were on
great.
deployments, they didn't get to see their children
Yeah.
born, their children's birth. But probably about 3 weeks after he was born, I went on deployment for about 4 or 5 months. I came back and he was a different
Oh,
baby.
wow.
It was like
Right.
a whole different
Yeah.
child.
Yeah, they grow fast. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, going from newborn to that, yeah, that was pretty crazy. He was
Right.
looking at me like dude, who are you?
Right. He goes, I don't remember you now. Oh goodness. So we wanted to talk about
Yeah,
when did you start your podcast before? I know it was like in 21. And did you start it pre-COVID or after COVID, or did you start it because of COVID? How, at what point did you start it, and then how did you decide to do that? And it was called this
I believe it
Distinguished
was.
Black Gentleman Inc., right?
Yes, ma'am. This distinguished black gentleman Inc. I started that. I think it was either right before COVID, kind of around the COVID time. It's just I have a group of friends. We've met through some of them I know through my military service. Some of them I know just through social media. But we've been friends and we've chatted for a very long time. We have like a group chat that we
Yeah.
participated in, and we're all veterans. We all served. They've helped me with advice through how to submit claims, things like that. When you're going through hard times, they've really showed me what it's like to really have that full on support from other veterans, especially ones from other services. Like I get to see through them that through the Army, the and even the Air Force that yeah, we all go through the same things, just different spell, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
Right.
we talked about doing the podcast because some of the things we talk about are just hilarious. Like my wife said, look at me and be like, "What are you laughing at?" Because I'm just dying laughing at some of the stuff these guys are saying, some of the stuff we
Yeah.
say. So I started the podcast. I jump started it with them so that we can have share some of that with some of our friends.
Yeah.
We have a large network of veteran friends, and it was going really well. But we all life kind of just took over. We all school. Like I have a friend that just one of the ones who were most consistent with me. My friend Courtney, he just graduated from medical school. He's a doctor now.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he used all his he used all his benefits to get a free education to become a doctor. So
Yep. Yeah.
yeah,
Might as well.
yeah. So he was one of my most consistent partners. Everybody else was doing the same thing, going to school. I started school myself,
Yeah.
cybersecurity, and then plus COVID too. It was just the weight of COVID and trying to be with my kids, do school, and I'm working 24/7. I
Yeah.
have You know, you got the 9 to 5 plus your side stuff that you're trying
Right.
to earn money with. It's just conflicted, but it never left. Like the wall, and people still, friends still hit me up and encourage me to start up again. So even the guys in the group, they're just like, hey, even if we didn't want to do it, you should do it because you were good at it. So
Yeah, you are. I listened to about 58 minutes of it this afternoon, and you were talking about mental health. And so you had three different subject matter experts on, plus your group, and it was a really interesting conversation. I really got a lot out of it. Just hearing perspectives on how things occur to each person's service in the military and how it impacted their life and their time. So it was really interesting to listen to that, and I'm going to finish it. But I ran out of time today to listen to it. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back, and we'll hear more about that podcast, and then about your new podcast because on MBR, because we want to hear about that too. So we're going to listen to Linwood King, and he's going to give us the Marine hymn in honor of RJ today.
So today, in honor of the Marine Corps birthday, I decided to wear my BCGs for y'all. Those of you who don't know, it stands for Birth Control Glasses, Marine Corps issue. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for rights and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marines. Our flag's unfurled in every breeze, from dawn to setting sun. We are fighting every climate place where we can take a gun. In the snow of far off northern lands to the sunny tropic scenes, you will find us always on the job, United States Marines. So here's out to you, to our Corps, which we are proud to serve. Many a strife we fought for life and never lost our nerve. If the Army and the Navy were to look on heaven's scenes, they will find the streets are guarded by United States Marines. I said if the Army and the Navy were to look on heaven's scenes, they will find the streets are guarded by United States Marines. They will find the streets are guarded by United States Marines. Oh, yeah. Hey, yeah.
Welcome back to Tracer Rounds with my guest today, RJ, and we were talking about his podcast that he had during COVID or around the COVID timeframe, and about his friends and how they came together to just have a conversation and kind of talk through some issues of the day, mental health and other things. So I really appreciated, like I said, the perspective there. But I'm wondering now, with the new podcast you're going to have, RJ Rants, what are you going to talk about now? Are you inviting guests to come on, or you have friends that are going to join you? What's your take now on your show?
Well, just to give a little background, there was a segment I added a segment onto the Distinguished Black Gentleman show where it was called RJ Rants.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
so I would go on little rants about different things, and my friends just found it so entertaining. They did. I rant sometimes. It's me. I'm random. I'm a Marine through and through, but I'm also, I'm a McAfee. Family rant. So I go through my points where I rant about certain different things, but I do want to give, since MBR has given me such a big chance, I want to it's not just going to be me ranting about just random things. We are going to talk about different veteran issues. Same thing, mental health is a big thing of mine. I do want to have more subject experts of it because I'm not a subject expert. I can only talk about it from my experience. But they can talk about it from a professional expert. We can ask questions because I learned a lot doing that. I even had there was a show where we had on life insurance and things like that.
Wow.
I had friends almost 50 years old calling me asking me questions.
Right.
People, there are certain things people just don't. It's just not information. We think everybody knows, but if it's not coming from a certain point, like it came from us, it came from the people they know. So when they saw it, it was interesting to them, and they want to know more about it. Sometimes when you're hearing some stranger on the internet talking about something, you think it's a scam, or you
Right.
just don't. It doesn't catch your attention like that. But coming from people coming from fellow veterans and things like that, I also want to just make sure that veterans have the right information. Pointing out the veteran newsletter is the big thing for me because that's how I found out about MBR through the veterans newsletter.
Right.
So
Yeah, me
making sure
too.
that we keep making sure veterans keep updated on that. Sometimes I look at email, training. I've gotten training offers for doing cybersecurity training through that. That's how you know about your benefits and how things are changing around. So also talk about current events. I mean, we have an election coming up.
Yes,
We have things going on. We could have possible wars coming up, conflicts, things that are coming up. That affects us all. Things. Giving suggestions on how try to give suggestions on how to make life easier for us. Some of us have different ailments, like I said, mental health. It affects us in different ways. Like some of us go through bad depressions where it's just hard for us to get up and do things that we love, like our podcast.
Right.
Even you love your podcast, but some days you just don't want to get up and do anything. So
Right.
trying to find different ways of helping people and helping them know that there's other folks out there who are going through the same thing. And I do want to have guests. I do want to have my homeboys on sometimes. I hope they do it every once in a while. But don't make it a requirement for them. That's why I changed the name up because everything was done with them. So we're doing it now. It's going to be me and my guest. Hopefully one day I'll find a co-host.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There you go. That sounds good. So I wanted to let everybody know, for those that are watching, we do have the text lines open, and I believe the phones are open too. And there's a scrolling banner at the bottom. And so if you want to put something in the chat, or if you want to text, go ahead and text the question, because I'm sure RJ would like to address something that's current or something that you need to know about. Because like you said, there's so many things that they put out when you retire that there's no possible way to remember everything they told you. Or when you're transitioning, if maybe you weren't retired, but you're transitioning out, there's just so many things they put in front of you that you just really have no idea. You're just like trying to, check the block, and you're just trying to get done with whatever it is they say you have to do to go. And you just kind of go through the motions and you're listening, but you can't retain some of it. Cause I know I retired once and then I was like, oh, I can't handle this. I got to get back in. So I did. I went to the retired reserve. So I never got out. I went to the retired reserve. So it's like the control group. If you're a reservist, you know what that is. But the control group is where they just kind of house you. You're not out, but you're not actively like drilling or anything. And then I stayed there for 1.5 years, and I'm like, oh no, I cannot do this. So I had stayed in, and then I was like, okay, I need to get back out because I'm just bored. I can't put up the boots yet. It just ain't time. So I got back in, and I got a unit to accept me. But when I had originally went through the retirement motions, there was just so much data that they gave you, this big, huge notebook. I think it must have been the size of like the old big dictionary that you used to put on your coffee table.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there's no way I could retain all of that stuff. And so now when I get ready to retire again in December, I'm going to have to like really listen up and say, okay, now what are my benefits? What do I need to know? Where do I need to go for my resources? But like you say, that VA newsletter has really been a godsend for a lot of us to kind of stay connected to the military benefits and what's happening with the VA, because that's where I found about MBR as well too, is from that newsletter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think the Marine Corps, they have back in, like I said, I got out in 2008. Back then, they had what was called the TAMPS program for
Yes,
just
tabs.
enlisted members who was just getting out. And whoo, man, like you said, they gave us a binder, huge binder. It was like maybe a week or two of just stuff. Yeah, 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 just stuff in your head. I think the only thing I really pulled was how to file for unemployment.
Right. Yeah,
That's the only thing I think I remember.
the important stuff like how do I get paid until I can find something.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of stuff came over time, like you said, on connecting with different veterans, and things like the VA newsletter is what helped me start getting a lot of things, together. I always thought to myself, my dad never used his VA benefits really other than medical towards the
Yeah.
end. Never really used his home loan or anything like that. So I think he didn't really get a chance to ever file for any disability claims or anything. So
Yeah,
go ahead and do it now while you
right.
can.
Yeah, it's a really different time because veterans that came back from Vietnam and the Korean War and things like that, they really didn't get the opportunity to really get engaged with benefits because they weren't really seen as, how they should have been seen in the light they should have been seen, and they really weren't welcomed home like they should have been. So they were like afraid to actually say, I am a veteran of a foreign war, because it was kind of looked down on in some instances, not everybody, but a lot of society was kind of feeling like they were doing things they didn't want them to do, so they weren't as welcomed as they should have been.
Those are subjects that I really want to touch too. I
Yeah.
want to have some Vietnam vets on so they could talk about their experience. Because the older I got and the more I started talking to it's like Korean War veterans, Vietnam veterans, it's just like, wow, the information you get and things you hear, like, sheds a lot of light on why certain things turned out the way that they did. Fatherless homes were really caused by Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Or they call it the conflict, but yeah, it was that. That's one thing that I do want to talk about too.
Yeah, I mean, because from the soldiers returning from the Gulf Wars, I mean, they came back as heroes for the most part, and they were celebrated, and they still are. But the ones before us really didn't get that recognition, and it's really sad. So usually, I try to, every time I see somebody with a hat that I know is older, that I always try to tell them thank you, and give them that benefit of knowing that they were appreciated, even if they didn't get it then, they should get it now.
I can only imagine because I know 2008 I got out. It was post 9/11 GI Bill. There wasn't a whole lot of programs, and then all of a sudden around 2009, 2010, it's just like this boom. Like once the
Yeah.
post 9/11 thing went through, it was just like this huge boom of just like benefits, just all these places hire heroes, veterans this, veterans that, and I just think that they didn't have none of that.
Mm-mm.
Like
No,
I
yeah,
probably went maybe
there's
a year or two without that, but they didn't have none.
yeah, they didn't have as many benefits as we do now, that's for sure. I feel very fortunate, in our service, in the time of our service, that we've been offered so much when the ones before us really weren't. And so, yeah, it really. So whenever somebody comes up to me and says thank you for your service, I'm like, well, it's my pleasure. It's like I'm the one that's privileged here. It's like it's not the other way around. I'm the one that is proud to be able to do this. Like I'm blessed to do it. So it's not like you owe me anything. I'm thankful to you for allowing me to do it. And and it's like when they like try to buy you something and you're like, no, I'm good. I got this. No, I want you. I'm like, there's no reason for you to buy me something, but I appreciate it. The ones before me didn't get it and I don't deserve it. So, so sometimes I have to look at myself and say, okay, take it for the ones that didn't get it. Just take it and say thank you for the ones that didn't get the recognition they should have had.
You're not the only one. I mean, a lot of veterans go through that. I talked to some of my veteran friends about filing for their disability claims. They don't think they deserve it. I went through that
Right.
period. And like you said, when I think about it, and I thought, like, I brought up my father, I think he didn't get to do it. So let me go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for him. I'm doing it for his grandkids. Not necessarily for me, but everything I'm doing is going to pass down through the generations for his generation. So let's go ahead and get that kick started. I'll be the one to do it. Then I can teach my son, who's at right now in National Guard. I can teach him to do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I don't remember where I heard it. I was listening to some podcast or something. I don't really remember where I heard it, but I heard the same thing, is that people are like, well, I don't deserve it. I don't want to take money from other veterans. And the person that was responding said, look, you're not taking money from any other veterans. This money is set aside for veterans, period. So you're one, so you deserve it just as well as anybody else. Just don't think that you're not hurt enough, or you don't, whatever the case may be, but they didn't feel like they could take advantage of that because they were taken from some other veteran. And they're like, no, the budget is set for veterans, for taking care of veterans. They're going to get theirs, and you need to get your coverage too. You're deserving as well. And I was like, I never really thought of it that way. I mean, I know that they set budgets. Okay. I understand all that, but like, I would have thought the same way, as like, no, I'm taking money out of somebody else's pocket, or I'm doing something like that. And then I would worry about it. So, yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah. We just got to get that message out to them. And, hopefully it helps somebody. There's too many homeless veterans out there. There's too many unemployed veterans out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll be back talking more with RJ. And I appreciate the conversation. So come on back in just a minute.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Hey, from the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop, and his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, pay the ultimate price. Oh.
Introducing LT Defense Tactical Gear, your ultimate solution for top-notch protection and performance in the field. Our armor bundles provide unmatched safety and comfort, while our battle belts and holsters ensure quick and easy access to your gear. Stay prepared for any situation with our high-quality medical supplies, designed to keep you ready for action at all times. Looking to enhance your skills? Our firearms training programs will take your proficiency to the next level. Trust LT Defense for all your tactical gear needs and gear up for success on the battlefield.
Hi, welcome back to Tracer Rounds. I'm Terry, your host, and this is RJ in the studio with me, and he is going to be the podcaster for the new podcast on MBR coming up soon, RJ Rants. And so I'm so thankful you're in the studio today because I enjoy our conversation. And we had a podcaster, Amber, comment in the comments about that she got hurt in basic training and she, had to get out of the service because of that. And she's been receiving VA care since then. And she said she didn't feel like she's worthy. And I said, you know what? You raised your hand. You definitely are. It's like, not everybody will raise their hand and say, take me. And she did. So, it's not her fault she was hurt. That's not on her. So she's just as deserving as any other veteran that served 20 years, in my opinion, because you said you would, you raised your hand, and, it doesn't get any, that's major respect from me. And anybody that raises their hand to serve, even if you just serve 2 months, you still tried. You still did it. Like the majority of citizens won't ever serve. They'll never know what it feels like. And I'm just so fortunate to know what it's like to serve. And I think a lot of the veterans around us would say the same. What do you think?
Those are probably some of the most heartbreaking memories I have of like boot camp. It's like guys making it almost to the end and then getting injured or getting let go because of an illness, like a heart murmur or something that they didn't even know they had. I think we had a guy got dropped for a heart problem probably 2 weeks before graduation.
Oh my gosh.
He did everything.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. So I don't feel bad. It happens. It happens a lot. There's people who've been in boot camp for 6 months to a year because of an injury.
Yeah.
So it happens. So you go ahead, and if you can file, go ahead and file. You are a veteran. Unfortunately, just unfortunately you didn't get to serve fully because of an injury.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that wholeheartedly. It doesn't matter how long you serve. If you raise your hand, you deserve, the care you need. Bottom line.
Sorry to hear about that, though.
Yeah, she's great though. You gotta check out her podcast. She's Into the Weeds, and she covers a lot of different things. She's got some really interesting guests. She had one on this weekend that was really interesting. And then she had another one on the weekend before that was in the witness protection program. So she has a lot of very interesting guests. So you need to check her out. So
Okay.
I know you're going to get started probably in the next few weeks. And so what do you think your first show is going to be like? What do you think you're going to talk about first or do first, or who you're going to invite? I'm curious.
It's gonna be more of an introductory show to me, who I am, what the show is gonna be about. I'm still thinking about what my first subject is going to be on. Like I said, I'm gonna do different. I'm gonna try to have different segments on shows when it's just me. So it's gonna be more. I am gonna spend time covering whatever current events are going on, whatever headlines I choose. But again, the main topic on the show is going to be mainly about the show and what we're going to be covering over the next couple of months. I should have all of that put together by then. I want to do justice for the chance and opportunity that I'm given. I was so happy to see that Joel Dunn replied back to me and accepted me. So I was super happy about that, and I want to pay it forward.
Yeah, I agree. I was given a chance to do this, and I'm not sure why they let me, but I'm thankful. I'm thankful
They didn't
for
even
it.
see. I don't even think they've seen the other podcast yet. I don't think I even got a chance to share it with them. They're so busy, Sometimes I just take when I got the opportunity to talk to Gliz and Joe, it's just straight up, but we gotta get the business taken care of. I don't want to
Right.
hold them up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we have just a finite period of time to, handle business, get things laid out because, they are so busy. Big Grizz is busy and Joel's busy. All the other people that kind of help, show all of us around when we're new and we're trying to figure things out. So I have to say, big props to the MBR team and what they do.
Yeah, big ups for the time that they give me, man. I'm so happy for it. Like I said, I feel blessed.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. You know how you say you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. Put it together. And then, I feel like God put that in front of me because it was right around that time. My friends were like, "Hey, what's going on? You did a good job." So, yeah, I'm so happy and grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, me too. Because I had the podcast on my bucket list. It was one of the things on my bucket list, and I was like, I read the VA newsletter, and I'm like, that's my bucket list. I said podcaster. It said podcaster. I said yes. That's one check mark off my bucket list. So, and the other thing was to do a master's degree. So I'm in my last week of my master's, and then I'm done with that. So I'll have more time and maybe more sleep. I don't know yet, but we'll see how that goes.
Congratulations.
I have an assignment due tomorrow, and I'm like, I don't even know what to write about. And then I have one more paper due on Sunday night, and then I'm done. So I'm stressing a little bit, I have to say, a little bit.
Sometimes the last minute writings are the best ones. So you kind of have. You ever seen that movie Old School with Will Ferrell?
I probably have, but you'd have to remind me because I've seen almost everything he's done.
He's like the town idiot on most of the time, but then he has this point where he goes and he's like just super smart genius. That's how I feel. That's how I feel my procrastination works sometimes. It turns me into a super genius because at the last minute I'm like so resourceful.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's what it is for me too. I come down to crunch time and I'm like, okay, you need to focus. You need to do something. Now, whether it's genius or not, I couldn't speak to that, but I can say that I do get hyper focused when I come down to the wire because I know if I have plenty of time to do something, I'm still probably going to wait for a while. I probably shouldn't procrastinate, but I probably do anyway. And then come down to the wire, man. No, I got it in there. It may be 10:59, but it's in there. It's done. But I know I used to work at the fire department, and the chief would say, "So you're going to get that done?" And I was like, "Yes, chief." And he goes, "Is it going to be done by 5?" And I said, "No, chief." I said, "This is 24-hour operation. I've got till midnight before my next day starts. So we're 24, so we got this. I got this, and you're going to get yours." And he's like, "Okay."
Yeah, sometimes it works. Sometimes it comes against us. So that's why another thing, like I like to talk about that too, because see, so we all go to procrastination and trying to rush and stuff,
Yes.
trying to keep a schedule, do things like that. It does get taxing and it gets hard. But also giving ourselves that chance to admit that we're human.
Right.
Being you're human gives you such a mental break. Sometimes like, okay, all right, I'm human.
Yeah. Yeah, we make mistakes, I have to say that several places I work, you make a mistake and like you're demonized. Like that is the worst thing you could ever do is to make a mistake. Like you just messed up everything. Like the world is going to shut down because you made a mistake. But then I have a boss now, or I've actually had the two last boss I've had. They were like, you know what? It's not a showstopper. We learn from it. We move on. It's not a big deal. We're going to move on. We're all human. We make mistakes. It's okay. As long as you didn't shut down payroll, we're all good. I was like, oh, thank you.
I mean, it's certain things you got to be on, but repeat mistakes is where we start finding the issue. Like,
yes, we have to learn.
This?
Right. We have
that's
to
when
learn.
You got to start soul searching. Like, what am I doing that makes me keep doing this over and over again? And that's one thing I like to talk about. I may dip into relationships because relationships is where we have to repeat mistakes, and especially as veterans, So it's a good thing to talk about anything, every day. I look at Seinfeld as kind of like a base because Seinfeld, if they tell you what the show is about, they tell you the show is basically about nothing. It's about their daily lives.
Yeah,
they just found a way to write their daily lives into a show.
That's true. I mean, because it doesn't really have any like, I mean, there's drama to it sometimes because of some of the stuff they do, but really it's just about their daily lives and the silly mistakes they make. And then just how they adjust to that mistake or they don't. So you're right.
Turned out to be one of the greatest shows ever made. You know, people loved it.
Yeah, no, it lasted a long time, and then spinoffs lasted just about as long too. So
Larry David is exactly like not Kramer, but the other one, George Costanza.
George Costanza
is designed off of Larry David, and he acts exactly like that.
That's funny.
So just try to be real and just try to make a connection. That's really what the podcast is about: is making connections. We want to make connections. We want to learn things, and we want to do things on a positive level. Not to try to keep nothing negative from going on.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, the show, needs to deal with tough issues, I think, but also I think it needs to be on the positive side because we hear too much negative in the world anyway. So I think focusing on a little more positivity is not a bad thing. I think, we need to have a little bit of good stuff come out of the airwaves as well as all the negative that you hear. I agree.
Yeah, we get enough of that already. And now, we're not trying to go viral.
Right.
Yeah, if we go viral, it's just really, hopefully, it's God's blessing that we went viral.
Right. That's true. Well, we do have to take another quick break. It'll be our last break, and then we'll be back and we'll finish up our talk with RJ. And I really appreciate the conversation, and I'm looking forward to your show. So when you start, you're going to have to make sure I know so I can tune in. So we're going to go to Spinning by Big Joe Muse. In the Impossible Road.
Been a little crazy, and I haven't had much time. Crazy, it gets me the more you are on my mind. Thought of you and the things you do got me spinning. Never thought I'd find someone who sees things the way I do. Never thought I'd find this love till I ran into you. Filled the hole in my soul and got me spinning. Got me spinning around. My feet are nowhere near the ground, and I'm spinning. Yeah. I'm spinning. Time passes slowly when we're 1,000 miles apart, and the hours turn to days of getting aching in my heart. In my mind, I see a memory, and I'm spinning. I'll be home tomorrow. We got a lot of catching up to do. I wanna see your pretty face and draw my arms around you. Hold you tight all through the night and just spinning. Got me spinning around and round. My feet are nowhere near the ground, and I'm spinning. I'm spinning. I'm spinning. I'm spinning. Yeah.
opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome back to Tracer Rounds. I'm Terry, your host, and I have with me in the studio RJ, and he is with RJ Rants podcast. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can make him a little bit bigger because he's not big enough. Hold on. Oop, well, now we're too big. That's a little scary. Well, that works actually. So anyway, we were talking about just different topics about veteran issues, and I know that RJ said he's going to focus on those when he starts his podcast, and I really appreciate the conversation around that because I know that we really do have a lot of work to do when it comes to educating veterans and educating our force, either that's still active or that may be getting ready to retire. So what advice would you give now that you're out on the other side of the service? What advice would you give to somebody retiring, or maybe somebody that's just retired and then wanting to kind of step into some benefits or just look at some programs that might be helpful to them?
First thing I would say is keep your network tight. Keep keep in contact with your friends as they retire and as they get out. They can give you really good advice throughout the years, while you're going through your transition. Another thing is also take advantage of whatever training, whatever certifications, whatever education you can get while you're in. Go ahead and do that right there. You could do the extras if you can get at least through your bachelor's while you're in. Go ahead, or associates. Go ahead and do it. It makes things a lot easier as you get out. You also, like I said, certifications are big too. They don't take that much. They don't take as much time as the educational credits do. So if you're planning on doing anything, especially IT, from someone who's in the information technology field 15 years, you do need your certifications, whether you get a degree or not. So go ahead and get those right now while you're in. If you can, go ahead and knock those out. Especially your last year. You go ahead and knock that out. Probably take you about 3 months at the most. You can take a boot camp class. There's so much available because you could just walk to the educational center on base. You don't have to call the VA and wait online. You don't have to jump online and search for things. You can just walk straight into the educational center and find out all the information that you need while you got that access. So go ahead and do that. Also, just prepare yourself for your family. Understand the civilian life. It does really have to change your approach on it. Solo type, but you can chill and enjoy your life. Just enjoy your time with your family.
Did you find it hard when you came out? Did you find adjusting to civilian life hard after being 17 and then coming out?
Yeah, a little bit, because you go
at 25, right? Were you at 25?
Yeah, I was about 25. So yeah, pretty much everything. Having my friends right there was the biggest difference in adjustments. Having your friends right there in the barracks, having your friends that you work with 24/7. Civilians, you get out and some of them, they've been home their whole entire life. They already have their friends. They had their friends since kindergarten. They've got their families. So you're not always just openly accepted as, a friend in the civilian world as you are in the and plus, being in charge, being a sergeant, being a guy in charge, you're kind of starting all over a little bit. If retirees have a little bit of different experience because, depending on your rank, you're kind of walking into a more higher position. You're looking at a more higher position, but when you get out after just a couple more years, it's a little different. When you're searching, doing job search and stuff like that was new for me. It's just basically, the lingo too.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a lot of different, military has plenty of acronyms, but so does the civilian world. They don't realize that some of us are like, what are you talking about? Like, I have no clue. Especially if you've been gone and away from that environment for that long. I mean, you really do have to relearn a lot of things when it comes to that. I found, I've always been a reservist, but I find that when I come back from a military duty or an assignment, or maybe it was an operation, because I was deployed every time there was a hurricane. So really, that's whenever I stood up. But I go from being in charge of like something very important and very big to like something very different in my civilian life. Like they don't trust me with something. I'm like, well, the government trusts me with millions of dollars, and you don't trust me with a 10-cent stapler. I mean, like seriously. So it was an adjustment from that perspective for me too, is like, the Army or the service or whatever you're in government wise gives you a lot of responsibility and in charge of a lot of things. Like if you're in charge of people or you're in charge of equipment, maybe you're in charge of the motor pool, and that's millions of dollars worth of gear. And then you come back and they're like, okay, no, you can't have a procurement card that is $1,000 because we're worried about you. What? The government ain't worried about me. I have a clearance. What are you talking about? So yeah, It's definitely an adjustment.
Yes, it's a small adjustment. But it takes. I mean, if you're open to it, you could. But sometimes we get irritated. we get really irritated. I have a lot of my veteran friends. They be like, I can't stand civilians. It's just different.
But we have to remember we are civilians too.
Yeah.
We're both. Yeah, we gotta wear both hats.
Yeah, I had a career at the same company for almost 12 years. I enjoyed it. Getting to know people. This was different. Working from home was different.
Right.
So things have changed a lot for me as far as my view on a lot of things. But I'm still, in the heart, I'm still a Marine. I still have. Even some of my bosses have said. One of my bosses told me one time, he was like, because it was a crazy coincidence. I got a job. It was my first real full-time IT job. It was a database. It was working in data centers. They flew us out to Texas, and we were doing server stuff. We was moving stuff, and somebody dropped something. And I said, follow it out of nowhere. It just came out. He tried to say it. And I heard, who said that? And this guy popped up, and he was like, and me and him started talking. I was like, you look familiar. And he ended up being in NICOM with me. He was in a temporary company.
Oh, wow.
But he was at NICOM with me. He had just got out a year before. And that's what one of my managers said, y'all the only two military people who just still about it.
Right.
He was like,
that's
Marines
funny.
are just always about it.
Well, you find it really funny, but it's a really small world. Because you meet people and you're like, we served together, or we were at least in the same vicinity at the same time. Like there's a lot of that going on, because I'll find people like I had a guest on, and I actually applied for a job that he was hiring for. He didn't hire me, but he was like, oh yeah, I was the hiring manager. I'm like, well, thanks. Thanks. But I mean, it was cool, I wasn't mad at it for sure, but I thought it was cool. Well, we got to wrap it up because we have a show that's right after ours and we have to end on time. But I appreciate the conversation so much, and I'm looking forward to your show. And thank you so much for coming on today, RJ.
Thank you so much for having me, Terry. I really appreciate you. You have a wonderful night.
You too. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Welcome back again on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Come back and see us. Thank you. MBR, giving veterans a voice.